All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to gather around, but not too closely. Keep your physical distance, please. Step back, sir. This is episode 107 of the We Are One, You Are Two PlayStation podcast. I'm your host for all 107 episodes, Rob Fenzo, joined by he is now not even allowed to walk outside, Matt Rhodes.
Hey-o, shelter at home.
Shelter at home, yeah,
I think I'm technically allowed to walk outside, but that's like,
okay.
It's like take a walk. You can like take a walk, but you're not like supposed to interact with anybody.
Okay. You just have to have a note from your mom, I think.
Yeah, I think, I have to get a signed written permission slip from my mom saying that it's okay for me to walk around the block
for you to walk out
2 times.
Yeah. Crazy, man. I don't know. It's times like this that I'm glad that I work in the field that I do, that I can still do my job remotely. And so,
yeah, I'm lucky as well in that respect, where I can do my job remotely, and it's, it obviously has made the job a little bit harder, but that's okay. You roll with the punches.
That's right. You roll with them.
Yeah.
And so, this is a positive podcast. We're rolling with the punches.
That's right.
But I'm grateful for everything. And of course, if you're keeping track of it out there, I hope everyone stays safe and stays healthy. I do want to tell people, Matt, that if they do like what they hear, they certainly can go find us on the usual podcast channels, whether it be Podbean, Patreon. They can find us on, of course, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever it's called now, Spotify, all that good stuff. And I would always encourage you to like, share, and subscribe with others, because we do enjoy this and we do want to keep the mics on. And it still does cost me money, believe it or not. And I know no one has any money necessarily to throw around right now. I'm not asking you to donate to our Patreon. Save that $1 for your toilet paper.
If you can find it.
If you can find it. But you can at least share and subscribe to our podcast. We'd appreciate that. Leave us a nice review on your podcasting service of choice.
For sure.
Matt, we've got a good show lined up for people. We're going to talk a little bit about toilet paper. I do want to mention that news story you sent me earlier today. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about that, jokingly, of course. But we're also going to talk a little bit about, is GameStop an essential store? Because there was a news story regarding that this week. Backlog bonanza and what to do in these times when you are inside. And certainly we're going to talk about Cerny, talking about specs deep dive and his backwards compatibility talk too, that they recently PlayStation gave this past week. We'll react to that as well. By the time you're listening to this, that would have been last week, but we'll get you caught up anyway. All right. First and foremost, though, I feel like it's important that we do go into and share, since we are both inside playing a little bit more than usual, what we've been playing. And so let's go ahead and talk about that, shall we?
All righty. Of course, I've been playing Fortnite. I don't remember if I played Rocket League this week, honestly. I feel
Whoa.
I know.
You can tell something's not right in the world.
Yeah, I think I forgot to. Maybe I played it a little bit. I can't remember. I probably did, maybe for like a game or two. Or didn't we play after last week, maybe?
We might have played after last week's podcast episode for a few.
All right, so I did play a little bit. Anyways, but I have been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed Odyssey today.
Oh, what made you get back into that? I bet I have a guess.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone being stuck inside, I was like, let me check this out. Also, our sound guy, Dave, he said that he's been playing that, so I was like, let me check it out again. But yeah, I mean, we'll deep dive into it a little bit later, but that's kind of what I've been playing. What have you been playing, Rob?
I do want to correct you on that for Dave's sake, our audio engineer, right?
I'm sorry.
He does prefer that title.
Yes.
So Dave, I got your back.
Well, he's still a guy, though.
He is still a guy, yes. He's just an audio engineer, not an audio.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to downplay his engineering abilities.
His role in our burgeoning company.
Yes.
All right. Anyway. So yeah, Matt, what have I been playing?
Yes, Rob. What have you been
by
playing?
the time this podcast goes live, I will have finished Blood Roots, which is, like I said, Hotline Miami meets a platformer. I'm absolutely in love with it. minus the repeated dying part, but I guess that kind of comes with the territory. But I really enjoyed it. And so I'll probably go back. I won't get all the trophies because some of them it doesn't even make sense how to get them. I think I'm not that skilled. And that's something I've discovered as I get older. Not my podcast skills, my gaming skills are slowly dwindling downhill. I'm not as agile of a gamer as I used to be. But anyway, so I've been playing a lot of Bloodroots. I think I touched a little bit of the Hunt Showdown this week, and that's been my jam for multiplayer. I think I touched it maybe like towards the end of the week last week. I played it, but that was the last time I think I touched that one. Bayonetta, trying to finish that up, and so that was kind of my early week. Hunt, Bloodroots, and Bayonetta, and then I dove deeply into Neo 2 this week. So I've played a lot of Neo 2. Yeah. I think I talked about that last week on the podcast, didn't I? About how it was harder than I remember. So. I can't remember if I said that on air or off air. If I didn't, it's a lot harder than I remember, but I've gotten a little bit further and I've leveled up some. And it's actually really not as bad. I think it purposely throws a curve at you in the beginning to kind of discourage you. And then once you get past it, it does a lot better. And then Friday, even though it was said it was going to be delayed by Amazon, Friday afternoon, I did get Doom Eternal. The funny part is, okay, so real quick, I live out in the country. And I just want to say that where I live, when it tells me I'm getting a package on a Friday, that usually means Friday at like 9:30 at night. And so if for a Thursday, it's like 9:30 at night. I always get it like 9:30 that night. So much to my surprise, Amazon, not to my surprise, but initially they sent me out an email saying, you will not get your Doom Eternal today. It probably will arrive Saturday. And I was like, well, that's expected. They said they were going to be cutting back on all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't essentials. Then I got another email that said arriving today. So it said by 11 p.m. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. Now it's really going to be delayed. It showed up at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, man.
It showed up earlier in this pandemic.
Than it normally does.
So the pandemic has been good for my Amazon deliveries.
Well, they knew that
That's
you
the
needed Doom Eternal. They're like, well, this kid's stuck inside, so we better get him his video game.
Yeah, that's right. My driver must have been on my side. He must have saw the package and be like, this guy needs this right now more than I do.
Yeah.
So I've been playing Doom Eternal, and I played it on a slightly harder difficulty than what I normally would.
Oh.
And I gotta say, I'm okay with that because it's actually really not that bad. What I really like about it is that I feel like I'm almost always low on health, and I feel like I'm almost always out of ammo. And so there's not a single room or firefight that I don't enter that I'm not scrambling. And so whereas Doom 2016 kind of made me feel like this hunter, awesome, badass kind of guy that always was crushing enemies and crushing demons. What I like about this one is that it makes me feel like I'm truly in hell or in a hell-ridden earth, and I'm fighting for my life. Doomslayer's fighting for his life every step of the way. And so it's really cool in that regard. And I really like some of the mechanics because of that, because it just feels, I don't know, it feels like a Dark Souls type FPS, but not as hard as like a Dark Souls. If that makes any sense. So I'm sure it doesn't, but
not exactly.
I mean, just the difficulty level where you're always like fighting against the grind, trying to survive. That's all. So, but I've been really enjoying it. I highly recommend it to anybody who played the 2016 version, even those who didn't. I would highly recommend it if it's something that if you're into first person shooters. It's probably one of the best first person shooters on the PlayStation.
Cool.
So yeah. So that's pretty much what I've been playing, Matt.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Nice brief list, but I'm sure I'll scratch a few off and be a little more concentrated next week with what I'm playing. It's just that caught me in a weird spot because I was trying to finish Bloodroots and Bayonetta, but I couldn't hold back on playing Neo and Doom. And so I'm going to try and cut that list down. Oh, I also played Ori and Will of the Wisps Definitive Edition on my Switch because I've been trying to knock that out too. Cool. So when I feel like sitting in the other room, I end up doing that. So
sweet.
So that's it.
All right. Cool.
All right. Matt, before we move on to the news, I just want to point out it is now almost near the end of March. And as of the end of March, we have 184 total games on the PlayStation Network that have been released as of this coming week that you're listening to this podcast. Wow. We are keeping track all year long. And so we're up to 184 games. So if you are the kind of person who says there's nothing to play on the PlayStation, you are a big fat liar for 2020. Big fat liar. Because there are 184 games for you to choose from. I'm not saying they're all quality games or good games, but there are 184 for you to choose from.
That's right.
All right. Anyway, so shall we move into the news/topics
We shall,
for today?
Robert. We shall.
All right. So just a couple pieces of news. A lot of them actually weirdly are coronavirus related. So not that I want to keep talking about that, but I thought I would just mention some of these to connect because it just seems like it's impacting everything. So I'm just going to run through these real quick. I'm not going to highlight them all. And then we're going to get into our first couple pieces of conversation here. We'll start with, and so we'll tie into GameStop's essentiality because that'll be the last news article I talk about. But first up, Nintendo apparently, I don't know if you saw this, and we know Nintendo's notorious for its pressure of its IP and keeping its IP and protecting its IP, but they are apparently putting pressure on Sony to remove Super Mario-inspired creations being shared in dreams. And so one creator, Piece of Craft, was contacted by the legal department of Sony Interactive Entertainment after Nintendo apparently objected to the use of its mascot in some of his creations. So I don't know if you'd seen any of those Mario creations on Dreams. Had you seen any of those?
No, I haven't, actually.
Yeah, there's one where he basically remade like an opening level to Mario, and it was really cool. But, you know, apparently Nintendo does not like, nor can I blame them, their IP being messed with. So
What? They don't.
I know.
So weird of them.
They've never gone after anybody for that. So, you know, how could they do that now? All right. Second up, Netflix. I don't know if you've seen this or not. Netflix actually lowered its streaming quality across Europe for the next 30 days to help with bandwidth, I guess.
Yeah.
For more important, you know, essential stuff so they can cope with the increased demand. And so a question was raised earlier this week is, and I saw this on Twitter a lot today, actually, about could the same happen to PlayStation 4, PlayStation Network, as well as all online gaming services? And I wanted kind of your brief opinion on this because most streaming for gaming is between 40 megabytes and 300 megabytes per hour, whereas Netflix is typically 3 gigabytes to 4 gigabytes per hour for an HD video feed. So even like YouTube, for example, was also lowering its streaming quality. And I think so was Amazon, if I remember correctly. But do you think that this could be a potential issue as we move forward through dealing with this virus situation where people start to see their gaming data caps come into play or where you might see bandwidth stream reduced?
I don't know. I feel like it's hard to say. I mean, if you're streaming games on PlayStation Now, maybe. I think it's just going to depend on your usage, realistically, right? Like, because there's already like Comcast and other companies already do that if you're using an excessive amount, from what I understand, right? So, you know, I think that they should kind of give a little leeway, obviously, based on what's going on in the world right now. I think that would go a long way with a lot of these companies because, you know, most of these companies are hated by their customers, but they only have like one choice in their area, you know, whether it's Comcast or AT&T or whatever. You know, so to then further make people angry by limiting their bandwidth, I think would be a bad thing. I mean, I get it to a certain extent, but I guess I just don't know, like infrastructure wise, like how much better we're supported or capable of supporting that as opposed to Europe is.
I don't know that we are, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, I feel like I feel like just given how historic a lot of Europe can be, I would think that they were a little bit more behind in that aspect, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But yeah,
No idea.
it's hard to say. But I mean, I think there would be a lot of angry people if they started doing that, or if they did that to an extent that it's going to affect everything, right?
Right.
I mean, obviously, I guess if they do it across the board, you know, it affects everybody the same way to a certain extent. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation we find ourselves in because we do want to preserve as much as possible. And for us as gamers, it's not a huge deal to do something like that. In fact, gaming actually uses very little bandwidth because you need latency to be as low as possible. And the only way to achieve low latency is to use very small amounts of bandwidth at a time. But we'll see what happens because I'm not sure, like you said, how differently or ill-equipped we are to handle all this kind of stuff. So it'll be very interesting to see how this all unfolds. Hopefully it won't come to that.
Right.
I would prefer not to lose my bandwidth, but I also will not complain about it because as I brought up on Twitter, there are plenty of single-player games that I know I can enjoy that aren't going to cause me to lose bandwidth, or have to worry about bandwidth. And there are plenty of single-player games, if they want to take my internet away, that would happen.
I will say that if they're going to do that, I better get a reduced rate in my bill because I pay for like 300 megabytes per second, right?
Yes.
So if they're dropping it, to a third of that, or a fifth of that, or a sixth of that, I shouldn't. There's no way I should be expected to pay the same rate.
I agree. And so that's something to, I guess, just keep in mind as we go forward through this, see what happens, see where people are, see what the score is, kind of just keep your eye on all of that because who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's certainly an interesting scenario to have found ourselves in regarding all of this.
Oh,
so
yeah, for sure.
We'll see what happens. All right. So yeah, big shout out there to that story for making its rounds and for certainly Twitter bringing that up as well, because I was very curious to see what we thought about that. Now, Matt, we'll get into Mark Cerny's presentation a little bit. So I'm going to skip over that news story. On the other hand, the good news about all of this going on is you're still going to get your Final Fantasy VII remake. It has not been delayed. It's still set to release on April 10th, 2020. However, if you ordered a physical copy of the game, you may not be getting it at launch. Square Enix came out and basically said that various retailers are now having to prioritize the stocking of necessities, and with certain retailers closing and things like that, you may not, and Amazon, prioritizing when it delivers, you may not get. In fact, I saw on Twitter, a lot of people actually get an email regarding the delay. And you and I talked about this. I just talked about this a little bit ago. I got an email about the delay of Doom. So a lot of people, if you're looking forward to physical copies in the foreseeable future, you may need to dive into digital. And I think we talked a little bit about that last week, where this may push digital, but we can certainly bring that up again as well. Continuing on, speaking of delays, the Netflix series The Witcher has been temporarily paused due to the coronavirus. I don't know if you saw that. Did you see what also got delayed this week, Matt?
No. What? Tell me, Robert.
I'm pretty sure this is a sign from heaven. This movie's never supposed to be made, but the Uncharted movie got delayed because of the coronavirus as well.
Yeah.
The universe does not want that movie to exist, nor does anyone else, I think.
Yeah. It's hard to say.
So that also got delayed this week. Speaking of the virus and delays and just bandwidth, as we mentioned a little bit ago, I also saw this news story this week that was posted by Hollywood Reporter that Verizon claims that video game playing and engagement, and I don't know how they measure this, is up 75% during peak hours in the United States. And so I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah.
Gamers are taking full advantage of this. And we'll talk about that when we talk about our backlog bonanza as well. And so that's interesting. And I actually wondered, and I wanted to throw this out to you. Do you think this kind of stress of more people being online, playing more games online because of everybody being home, do you think that's going to put stress on either Xbox Live or PlayStation Network? Because Xbox Live was down a couple of days ago for a few hours.
Yeah, it was. You're right. I don't know. I'm sure it'll put some kind of stress on it, right? If that many people are using it, there's got to be someone there's something that like kind of breaks it because of that. But at the same time, I think it'll be a good stress test for them to see how much they can handle. Yeah,
absolutely. I'd be real curious to see what that results in, right?
Yeah, I think also Sony's usually pretty proactive about like if things go down for a day or two, they're like, here's a free month on us, or you know what I mean? Like they're usually pretty good about that.
Usually, yeah.
They'll usually give something for free, even if it's like digital content or something, if they're having that big of an issue.
Yeah, exactly. Now, in a somewhat related note to that, we're talking about increasing gamers. Call of Duty Warzone. I haven't played that. You mentioned last week that you had tried it out. I wanted to try it out and I ended up deleting it. Has now, as of recording this podcast, recorded more than 30 million users in its first 10 days.
That's nuts.
And so that's more popular than EA's Apex Legends when the stats are compared. And it's projected to beat the 50 million players Respawn Entertainment recorded a month after launch, probably within the next week.
I can see that.
So that's very impressive. But again, I think that's skewed by the fact that there's a peak in people playing games right now.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that that's actually what has contributed to that. And it's a slow time of year, right?
Exactly.
We just had Doom, Animal Crossing, and Neo 2 in the last week. But until then, it had been a pretty slow time of year for games.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll see. I mean, I'm very fascinated by all this. This is all kind of social stuff that's occurring and unfolding because of this. And so everything, that we've talked about here all kind of ties together with the bandwidth, the stress testing, the increased number of players, and then certainly, delays and certain things that are also going to cause other things to be redirected. A lot of movies are going straight to digital a lot sooner than they normally would. Frozen 2, for example.
Yeah, like I was looking at at the blog at the very bottom, it says it always gives PlayStation Video or whatever. And it says home premiere on one of them, which I'm assuming means that it was supposed to be released in theaters, but they're putting it right to video.
Yeah, I think for some of them that's correct.
And even on Amazon, correct me if I'm wrong, there's that there's a movie called Onward, it's Disney Pixar.
Yes.
You can buy it on Amazon right now, digitally.
Yes. And my wife and I just went and saw that in the movie theater maybe a week ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't you? I was going to say
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was just it was just released in the theater. So clearly that's something that they're doing as opposed to delaying these things. Obviously, major things like, the next Bond movie, I don't think that they're going to do that for. They've already said that they're delaying that. But maybe smaller films that need to release it and need to make that money, maybe they're just going to do that straight to digital.
Yeah, they're going to have to.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say in its defense, Onward was a very, very good movie. Much better than I anticipated.
Yeah.
So I would recommend if you want something to rent and watch.
I like Pixar. I mean, most of Pixar's things are pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I had questioned whether or not, it just didn't strike me as my type of movie, but it was very much, if you know anything about the hero's journey, and this is the English major in me, if you know anything about the hero's journey and the steps that a person takes in the Odyssey or any typical hero type movie, it's very much a blatant telling of it's almost like a great educational tool. It's this is what the hero's journey is, kids. Yeah. In case you didn't know.
Right.
But yeah, very good movie. But anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. Do you?
No. We're talking about digital, how things are digital and things are going to be released digitally quicker, much more quickly because of everything that's going on.
Yeah, we went down a rabbit hole there. My apologies. So, to get us back on track here, there's a story that actually ties in with all of this because everything is closing down. All this stuff was moving, as we talked about. And this is our first little topic here that I want to talk about before we dive into the backlog and the PlayStation 5 presentation this past week. And that is that I saw this news story on several, and I'm actually pulling this from your Chicago WGN9, WGN TV.
Okay.
GameStop says it's an essential business. Employees are outraged. And so hundreds of GameStop stores around the United States are open and will remain open and have tried to remain open, saying that they are essential retail, including in New York and New Jersey, that people need to work from home.
Yeah.
I wanted your take on that. Have you ever gone to GameStop for a mouse and keyboard?
I mean, I get it. No. But do they still sell them? Yes, absolutely. But here's the thing. I think video games are essential, especially right now, for parents not to kill their kids. You know what I mean? I feel it's very essential.
Well, they should be teaching them their school lessons that, I'm putting online because I can only do so much for my neck of the woods, as they say.
Right.
So, but I kind of had to laugh at that. And I wanted your opinion a little bit because to me, it seemed kind of absurd that they wanted to stay open. And I kind of laughed a little bit when they called themselves essential because I thought, oh, video games. And then when I read that article, I was like, well, I guess I can see the argument for mouse and keyboard. But let's be honest, no one walks in there for a mouse and keyboard. Now, if I'm wrong about that and you want to write me in the comments, please, by all means, do so. Tell me I'm wrong.
Here's the thing too, though. I just feel like what we had talked about, like a previous like either last podcast or two podcasts ago, about how this could be the death of GameStop, right? So, I mean, if they feel that way, of course they're going to do everything they can to not die out.
And I appreciate you bringing that up, because that was my other line of inquiry with this. Is I was reading between the lines with it, and I thought, are they just masking the fact that they don't think they'll survive this coronavirus outbreak? Their stores will not survive.
Yeah, I don't think they think that they will. I think it's just the last gasp for breath.
And I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wondered that. I started reading between the lines with this, and I was like, well, maybe perhaps they're just calling out the fact that they're masking the fact that they won't survive. And so they're using this as a way of saying, no, we are essential. And I know we are essential. Hint, hint, we won't survive otherwise.
Yeah. Well, because here's the thing. Like if everyone starts downloading games digitally, realizes how easy it is, how convenient it is, people just aren't going to want physical copies anymore. Even if like they want them, like if stuff's going to be delayed anyways, because the retailers can't get them due to shipping, of course, people are still going to just say, well, screw it. I'm going to pay this much anyways. I might as well just download it digitally.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to bring up is even if GameStop closes, Amazon still functions, because Amazon will always function as a online retailer. And so Amazon may delay me getting Final Fantasy VII, but Amazon will still allow me to get Final Fantasy VII, whereas GameStop will not, because they'll be closed.
Exactly.
On the flip side of that, Walmart is going to remain open because they are essential for food. But Walmart also sells video games and sells them at a $10 cheaper price, typically, than most other retailers. And so if I'm desperate enough to go purchase a game at Walmart, I can do that too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, because I mean they're like half supermarket, right? Most of them are. So like, of course they're good. Of course they're going to stay open.
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't they have someone manning the electronics area?
Exactly. And so there are these other options out there that GameStop is already competing against, let alone if they are closed down. So, in fact, this article actually, and this is what made me laugh too. This article continued to point out that employees said that only select shops carry the kind of equipment that can help people work from home. GameStop primarily carries higher-end PC gaming accessories, not the affordable and simpler tools that are more suitable for office work.
Yeah.
They don't want the $85 Razer keyboard we have or the $60 Razer mouse. So that was what one of the employees said out of Athens, Georgia. And so just, I think this is definitely them struggling financially and recognizing that this is ushering in their end even faster than they anticipated.
Yeah, 100%. And hey, here's the thing. Like, I can understand it from an employee standpoint of not wanting to be exposed to things like that. But at the same time, like how are you going to support yourself too? I mean, there has to be other employees that are like, okay, good. At least I can make some money during this.
Yes, I can continue to get paid. Yeah. So
I can still pay my bills and things like that.
Yeah, it's a very complex system at work here, right? Very difficult to kind of gauge what exactly needs to happen and what is the right move in any case.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on. I think, unless there's anything else you want to add to that, I think I feel pretty comfortable with that.
No, that's it.
Yeah. So the next thing you wanted to talk about and we wanted to touch on before we dive about Cerny's specs is Backlog Bonanza, you called it.
That's right.
I'm going to let you take the lead on this one and talk about what you wanted to touch on.
Well, yeehaw and giddy up, everyone, because with coronavirus and everyone having to stay home, I think it's time for a backlog bonanza. Obviously, we mentioned what we've been playing already, but, I realized how absolutely absurdly big Assassin's Creed Odyssey is. I realized when I saved it, I've already played like almost 50 hours, and I do not see an end in sight right now, which is kind of daunting and makes me want to stop playing it. But at the same time, it just made me think of like all these other games that I'm going to dive into because I'm just stuck here at home, right? Obviously, we both have jobs where we're able to work from home. However, we still, it still cuts down on commute time, right? Our commute is now what, 2 minutes?
Mine's 30 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and that's if we get a drink. 2 minutes is if we get a drink from the kitchen first. You know what I mean? So I think that all that added time is going to go into video games, at least for me, to a certain extent, because, I live with my girlfriend. You live with your wife. There's only so much interaction that you can take with that person before things start to get strained, right? Realistically.
For most people, yeah. I'd like to think
for a lot of people.
My wife and I are used to spending every day together because we worked at the same job for 7 years. Right. And so I think we have a unique relationship in that way.
Right. You have a different basis of things. So having that kind of time to yourself, I think is essential. Especially if, you're like in my dynamic, we work opposite schedules. So, seeing each other this much doesn't put a strain per se, but it's very different, right? It's something that we've not dealt with on a long-term basis. So having that time away to kind of just veg out or do our own things, but still be in the same room or same apartment, goes a long way. So yeah, I'm excited to dive into all these games that I haven't played in a while. I will try my best to get rid of Odyssey. I don't know how. Just looking at how much can be done in this game, it's hard to say if I'll be able to. Right. But then I think I'm going to dive back into Days Gone, which is another big open world game. And then I think I even thought about picking up Prey this weekend, a game that I had almost finished, but I love. And then I thought about BioShock 2, about the BioShock collection, just going back through those and playing those games. So, there's a lot of things on my docket right now, in my backlog that I've wanted to play again or play through. And honestly, I feel like, just going through those things is the best way to do it. And that's why I'm kind of excited for this time to a certain extent in regards to what's going on, because, I'm just going to have the extra free time because, I don't have to spend, an hour or, half an hour to 45 minutes commuting on the train each way. So it's an extra hour and a half of my day that I can just, do things like play video games.
Yeah. And I think what you're hinting at, and actually what's kind of cool about that is it is a great opportunity if you're an adult gamer to go ahead and have that chance to maybe tackle a longer game.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. So that's actually kind of the nice thing about me. I've been playing Bloodroots, but it's a short game, but I just got Doom Eternal. I don't know how long that campaign is, but Neo 2, I know I sunk 65 hours into the first Neo. Neo 2 is going to be one of those games where I probably just played it for a little bit and enjoyed it. But now I feel like I'm able to run through it. Right. And with this extra time, I think I'll probably go back and tackle Days Gone in my backlog. I'll probably actually finish Greedfall for once. The Outer Worlds is sitting there looking at me. And so there are plenty of games that I have kind of played enough of to get a sense of what they're like. But now that I have this extra time, I thought about Mortal Kombat 11 today because I was like, oh man, I've been waiting forever to play as Spawn in Mortal Kombat 11.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And now I just have the time where if I piss away that time for 2 hours playing that and just checking him out and playing some online matches even and get my ass whipped, totally fine. Totally fine. Because I have that time now. And you're right, the commute, cutting down on the commute, just working from home. Because working from home, depending on what your job looks like, your lunch break now becomes a gaming opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah, I've been playing Fortnite almost every lunch.
Yeah, you like you said before too, your commute time becomes a gaming opportunity.
Yeah.
Anything like that. I do CrossFit. My box is closed. And so instead of driving a half hour to work out for an hour and drive a half hour back and you shooting 2 hours of my day, I can now get out there, work out in 30, 35 minutes. And I now have an extra hour and a half if I want to game or work on projects around the house. And so there's a weird thing for gamers where this is kind of like, this is a dire situation and I'm not making light of it anyway, but this is also like a great situation for gamers who don't mind hunkering down and going, oh, I don't mind being isolated. I've got a backlog.
Right. Yeah. Especially us older gamers, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so this is great in a way. And I'm going to enjoy being able to tackle some of my backlog. And even though 2 new games came out and Animal Crossing doesn't appeal to me, but I get that appeals to a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I know there are plenty of people who aren't tackling new games right now who are okay with waiting, and you are actually, because you don't have Doom, you don't care about Neo, you don't care about Animal Crossing, this is a perfect opportunity for someone like you to tackle backlog stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's funny because like even with tackling the backlog, I have been looking up prices for Outer Worlds because I'm just like, oh man. And I was like kind of kicking myself because they had it like for like half off as like the deal of the week on PlayStation, like, I don't know, a few weeks ago, maybe even a month ago now. And now it's like, not that. It's more expensive still. So I'm just like, I can wait. I still have, all these other backlog games. I even thought about busting out Death Stranding.
That would be rather appropriate considering the situation we're in.
Oh, right. Yeah, you sent me that thing on Twitter or about the comment about the game itself and how it's kind of mimicking the real life very quickly right now.
Yeah, we're fighting an invisible enemy. Everyone's bunkered down and self-isolated. And we're relying on delivery men for everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is kind of funny in that way. But it is a nice time to do all that. And I'm just really enjoying. I downloaded 4 demos today for games that I have no interest really in buying. But I thought, hey, I'll try them out. And I've got the time to waste an hour on a demo that I normally wouldn't.
Yeah, definitely.
So, all right, Matt, just to wrap things up, unless there's anything else you want to say about backlogs.
No, that's it.
No, I would encourage people to go into your backlog this week. Gamers, go in there. Dig something out. You got the time.
That's right.
So, Matt, this past week, Mark Cerny did a deep dive on PlayStation 5 specs. And I think it misled a lot of people because they were unsure what exactly was going to happen. And they were unsure. They thought maybe it was going to be like a sizzle reel or a highlight opportunity. And it was none of that. It was just literally what they promised it. It was a deep dive meant to be given at GDC about specs and backwards compatibility and all kinds of stuff that made my head spin. But it was meant to be there, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Some of the things that they touched on, and I won't read through all the specs, but they basically talked about backwards compatibility. They talked a little bit about the road to PS5. Cerny talked a lot about teraflops and computational power. And a lot of people walked away angry and confused, mostly because of the specs and because of the backwards compatibility issue. Sony has come out since and said that they actually tested over 4,000 PlayStation titles that will be playable on PlayStation 5, whereas he said they had tried their top 100. And so they kind of misunderstood what he was saying. I think he said that he probably meant that they started with the top 100 games and then worked their way out from there to make sure. Yeah. Because let's be honest, if you're going to probably play something backwards compatible on PlayStation 4, you're probably not going to pick up some small indie you've never heard of, unless you're you or me. But you are probably, as the casual gamer, going to pick up your Last of Us or your Cyberpunk or your Persona 5s, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they tested those, I'm sure, first, Horizon Zero Dawn, stuff like that. And then they moved into tackling and dealing with over 4,000 titles. Now, that's nothing compared to Microsoft's backwards compatibility, but Microsoft's also had a whole generation this gen to do that. The other thing I wanted to talk about, so I wanted to talk a little bit about that backwards compatibility because there were certain things missing from that. But I also wanted to touch on the fact that a lot of people walked away with understanding that the PlayStation 5 does not have as many teraflops as the Xbox Series X. However, I did want to highlight that the thing is that in terms of some of the things that PS5 can do, it may not have as many teraflops, which is kind of a silly thing to compare, but it does happen to have a lot of other opportunities to use its computational power in a different way. And so I don't know if you saw this or not, but they talked about, I saw this somewhere where they talked about 3D audio, because he made a big deal of that too. And how 3D audio in the PlayStation 5 won't be used as part of the GPU, if I remember correctly. But on something like the Xbox Series X, the way it's set up, it will be used in the GPU, which means it's going to take away from those teraflops. And so when you do that, that actually balances out the amount of teraflops that both have. And I know I'm, again, not very technical with all this stuff, but I wanted to know, A, what you thought of this whole talk. B, does this change? Is there anything you're concerned with And C, does it change your mind at all on PlayStation 5 versus Xbox Series X?
I will go with B first.
Okay, go for it.
No, I don't. I'm excited for it either way. No, it does not change my mind. That was a C. B, I don't remember what it was. Either way, I'm excited for it. I am super excited about the audio part of it. I think that's insane. I think that kind of immersion level to do that, to make you feel like you're part of that because of the audio is going to be amazing. I will say the part that I watched of it, I got the bookends of it. So I got the beginning part about like the SSD and how that's broken down, and learned more things about hard drives and SSD and solid state drives than I've ever known, ever. And then I fell asleep in the middle.
As most people did, I think.
Tired. And then I woke up around the audio part. And, that's, again, that's what I think I'm most excited about. And I've been pretty vocal about that every time we've talked about PlayStation 5, of how I think the audio on this system is going to be phenomenal. I will say that looking back on, what he talked about and playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey today, I was like, this can't get here soon enough for me, because the amount of loading that I have to do with with the quote unquote fast traveling is insane, dude.
Yes.
Like, for it to be like less than a second, or like, 2-3 seconds, like, I'm so that I cannot wait for that. I just want the game to load so much quicker than it already does. Especially with these massive, massive games, right? Like, they put these roadblocks in there that to slow you down, basically, just so that the game can load. And if they don't have to do that, you can just move so much quicker through the world. Fast travel will actually be fast travel. Like, it's quite insane. And I'm really excited. As far as PS5 versus Xbox Series X, I'm going to buy PS5 no matter what.
Same. Yep.
This is the year that I might also buy Xbox Series X. I don't know yet. But no matter what, I'm still buying PS5.
Yeah, I am too. And I'm excited about too. I'm excited about the solid state drive. I'm excited about the speed. I'm excited about how fast it's going to deal with all of this. I'm really pumped about, a lot of other stuff seems very similar with the two, minus the CPU and the GPU. The only other thing that seemed really bothersome to me a little bit was the internal storage at 825 gigs. They didn't even give us a full terabyte. However, I'm not as upset about that, because you can still use a hard disk drive, a USB, external hard disk drive. And I'm fine with that. You can also, they have expandable storage, right? Where you're going to be able to buy an SSD and stick it in a slot, almost like a card type thing. And so that's probably going to be expensive, because solid state drives are always more expensive. However, what I like about it is it sounds like, at least for my hard drive that I have, that's 2 terabytes or 4. I can't remember what I have plugged in at the bottom there. That's external. It sounds like I'm going to be able to just take that and hopefully just maybe plug it in or format it in such a way that I can plug it in to the PlayStation 5. I might have to reformat it, which means I'd lose the games, but it doesn't sound like I have to buy a new hard drive if I don't want to. I can still use an external hard drive for it. It'd be great if I could just plug and play it, if they could somehow do that. But it sounds like that's nice. And so it hasn't changed my mind either. The talk was exactly what I expected. Like I said, I'm just super excited about it. I look at the other specs. There was nothing else that I was really bothered by. He kept talking about the variable frequency thing. And so it sounds like Sony has gone all in with this stuff this time around. And so I'm excited to see what happens. I know that we have indie dev friends who are much smarter than we are about this stuff. And so maybe they can chime in if they're listening to this and tell us on Twitter, or tell me on Twitter what they think. I would love to get some devs' reactions. But as a whole, it sounds like both gens will be very interesting. Yeah,
absolutely. It's so funny, because my girlfriend said to me the other day, she's like, oh, I heard it's supposed to be really expensive. Are you sure? Are you definitely going to get it? I'm like, yes. like, I don't know how much, to what extent she, looked into the pricing of it. But I was like, I know it's going to be probably around $500, and used to spending that much. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think for non-gamers, it's a shock, but for us, it's not.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, for her to be like, oh, I could spend that much money on a laptop or, a digital camera or like a really nice digital camera. I'm like, sure. But, this is what I'm going to spend my money on because I know I'm going to enjoy that and get my money's worth.
Exactly. I will say that I think PlayStation's messaging has been a little befuddled and a little difficult to understand.
Sure.
The backwards compatibility, for example, was a little mixed messaging there for a lot of people, the way he phrased it. And so I think that Microsoft is doing a better job of communicating right now. But it makes me wonder if they're allowing Microsoft to do all this communicating so that when they reveal everything, Microsoft doesn't have the time to back up. And It also makes me wonder if they're holding off because of the coronavirus stuff. And we talked about that before. So,
right.
So we'll see what happens. I'm excited. Digital Foundry, if you want to check out more, Digital Foundry did their own thing on PS5, the specs and the tech for the next gen. And so they laid out their own stuff as they always do. And I love the way they do that. They're always really, really good about explaining stuff in a way that makes much more sense than everybody else does.
To the layman like you and me.
Yeah. And so the one thing that I did catch that I found very fascinating is that basically Sony's creating that NVMe drive that's, for the SSD drive that you can plug and play. Sony's actually having this custom made in a way that's not available on the market yet. And so we're actually, if you want to plug and play more SSD drive into Sony's system, it sounds like you're actually going to have to wait for it to be made, to be created. So I did catch that out of their stuff. And so go watch that though. I'm not going to talk about it, but it sounds like too that Sony's got a lot going on for them and they've thought very hard about this. And so hopefully it all comes to fruition in a way that demonstrates what they're working at so hard behind the scenes.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to mention about that?
No, that's it.
Now, Matt, before we do see you soon, I wanted to talk about two notable up and coming games. I put them links in there for you. Both of them are mentioned way of Gamatsu. One of them is actually already on the PlayStation Switch. It's called Creature in the Well. It's coming to PS4 on March 31st. And it is a hack and slash dungeon crawler that's top-down pinball inspired. And so it's pinball with swords, as they call it. And so I thought that was a really cool game. I've eyed that up for months now. I'm glad it's finally coming to PlayStation 4. And the other one, I thought of you, actually, when I looked it up.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and it's called Snaky Bus. And it's coming on March 31st to PS4. And let me read you the description. Snaky Bus is an absurd arcade driving game and frantic score chasing experience where the biggest danger is yourself. Wind through city streets, pick up as many passengers as you can, and deliver them to their destination to increase your score and length of your bus. Boost, jump, and steer around an obstacle course of your own making. So it looks like you're a bus shaped like a snake. And I'm not sure why that made me think of you, but it just sounds like the type of game you would want to check out.
I mean, I love those snake games on your cell phone. So, I mean, this is that in a crazy way.
Yeah, watch that trailer. But for now, let's go ahead and move into See You Soon.
All right, see you soon.
As tradition dictates, I'm going to let you go first.
Oh, fun. Okay.
This girl wearing a tennis skirt.
Yeah, right? So I was like, wow, that's provocative. Okay, Arafel Enhanced Edition, PS4, digital out March 26th. Arafel Enhanced Edition is a 16-bit era Japanese-style role-playing game. Take in the beauty of a magical world floating above the clouds, then take on a menacing race of vampires hidden in the dark. Ooh, interesting.
I did not get the vampire part at all from that picture.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, dissection. I don't remember how I got into this house. I only know that I need to quickly find a way out because something terrible is walking around and looking for me. Avoid meeting a quote-unquote living corpse and find key items to progress through the game. Find the key to the front door and run away from this house.
All right. Up next, we got Dogurai. Dogurai is a retro-styled platformer with animal-like characters, graphics, and soundtrack designed with an old portable games in mind. Down to the limited color ranges and sprite sizes. Interesting. It does look like an old Game Boy game.
It does. Yeah. All right. Duck Souls Plus. That's right. I said Duck Souls Plus, not Dark Souls. PS4, PS Vita, digital cross-buy. Run, jump, and dash your way through traps to collect all the eggs. Duck Souls Plus is a fast-paced action platformer about a little duck with an incredible skill to dash and a mission. Find all the eggs to save his species.
Fun. All right, up next we got Element Space, PS4 digital. Year 2199. Assemble an elite crew and make allies as factions of the Galactic Congress grapple to determine a future for humanity's space colonies. In this sci-fi tactical RPG, command Pythons squad through turn-based battles. Strategize ideal positions to decimate foes in 24 handcrafted stages. Cool.
Well, we're going to stick to space here with Freedom Finger.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, we played this one.
We did.
Wow. 2 months ago, maybe, or so on the Switch. We got some codes and talked about it, and it was wonderful.
Yeah.
So now you can get trophies for it. Freedom Finger is a music-driven, side-scrolling shooter that sends you blasting through 40 levels of crazy cartoon action. Whether you want to chill and enjoy the story or crank the difficulty for a butt-blasting, ridiculous challenge, we've got you covered. Great game.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, I don't know if you noticed, I want to point out real quick that Freedom Finger, look at that cover art.
Yes.
Shouldn't it be the other way around? It's got it's got like a peace sign. We really knew what the Freedom Finger was in their game.
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, I think it's just marketing-wise, because, I'm looking at the little... You're right. I'm looking at the little shortcut on my desktop right now from the Steam, and it's definitely the middle finger. So I think marketing-wise, they had to do that.
Probably.
But yeah. All right. Up next, we got Mekorama, PS4, PS Vita, digital, out March 26th. Guide an adorable robot to safety after he crash lands on a strange cubic planet. Explore each level, rotating it in 3D to see all sides, looking for a way through. Use lifts and slide platforms to get around while looking out for dangers. 100 varied levels throws up new surprises. What? Levels throws up. Okay. Try your hand at creating your own levels with the level editor. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, not bad. Moons of Madness. Moons of Madness is a first-person, story-driven, cosmic horror game where the scientific exploration of Mars meets the supernatural dread of Lovecraft. I'm always good for a good Lovecraft game.
Yep.
As a technician stationed on Mars, you begin seeing and hearing things that aren't there. Visions, hallucinations. Is that even what it is? Or are you slowly descending into madness?
That's kind of cool. All right, Up next we got Odorless, The Dark Call, PS4 digital. The old gods have forgotten this land. Odorless is an exploration/action game and loving homage to the 8-bit genre classic. You play as Haggis, a battle-weary warrior who must wield his sword once more to rescue his son from darkness. That was a lot of W's real quick.
One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 comes to PlayStation this week. One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 is the latest evolution of the Pirate Warriors action, based on the concept of experiencing a real one-piece battlefield. Buildings will come crashing down during the action, and attacks will throw up smoke and dust, placing you in the thick of the One Piece world. I know that manga is very popular, that anime, but I know nothing about it.
Yeah. All right, up next we got Oniken, PS4 digital, out March 24th. In a post-apocalyptic future controlled by a sinister corporation, ninja mercenary Zaku is the last hope for humanity. Inspired by the demanding gameplay of 8-bit action/platformers, Oniken pits your agility and swordplay against a gauntlet of enemies, traps, and challenging bosses.
Cool. Paper Beast, this one's supposed to be really good.
I'm excited for this one.
PSVR, experience a dreamlike odyssey through a wild and simulated ecosystem. Take off on an adventure. Connect with exotic and surprising creatures. Shape the environment to solve puzzles or let your imagination guide you through an immersive sandbox.
Awesome. All right, up next, we got The Room VR, A Dark Matter. PSVR, digital out March 26. The British Institute of Archaeology, London, 1908. The disappearance of an esteemed Egyptologist prompts a police investigation into the unknown. Explore cryptic locations, examine fantastic gadgets, and enter an otherworldly space which blurs the line between reality and illusion in The Room VR, A Dark Matter. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, that does actually. Star Wars, Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy. Do they have enough colons there? All right. The online multiplayer classic comes to PS4 with trophies and modernized controls. Take on the role of a new student, eager to learn the ways of the Force from Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. Interact with famous Star Wars characters as you face the ultimate choice. Fight for good and freedom on the light side or follow the path of power and evil to the dark side. I know nothing about this game. I wonder if it's any good. It must have been like an Xbox exclusive or some PC exclusive back in the day.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, up next we have Twin Breaker, a Sacred Symbols adventure. PS4, PS Vita, digital. The United States sends generation ships to nearby star systems to find new planets to colonize. But once in interstellar space, the ships mysteriously disappear. When clues emerge about the missing spacecraft, two pilots jump through a wormhole into a story-driven brick breaker in the spirit of Arkanoid and Breakout. I love it. I love those breaker games.
Yeah, that was going to be $9. Yeah, that's going to be $9.99. Crossed by PS4, PS Vita, 2 trophy lists. I listen to Colin and Chris Raygun every week, so I've been following their tracking of this game. Lily Mo Games made this. He's the one that also made Habroxia and the Perils of Baking. And so I'm excited about this one. I tried to get a review code. They did not get back to me in time. And so I'll still be talking about it, I'm sure, next week anyway, because they also have open, although I think they're over by this point, they had open pre-orders for a physical copy of the game if you wanted a physical copy for either Vita or PS4. But I'm excited about that one. I'm excited to play that one for $9.99.
Yeah.
All right. I'm also excited about this one because I've heard good things. Vampire, the Masquerade, Coteries of New York. Vampire, the Masquerade, Coteries of New York is a narrative experience set in the rich universe of Vampire, the Masquerade 5th edition. It presents the struggle for power between two vampiric factions, the Camarilla and the Anarchs, bathed in the nightlights of the Big Apple.
Cool.
Looks good.
All right. Up next, we got, last but not least, we got Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist, Link Evolution. Experience 20 years of Yu-Gi-Oh! History with Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist, Link Evolution. Build your deck from over 10,000 cards and take on the most iconic duelists from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Universe. Relive the stories from the original animated series through Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains.
All right, good week this week.
I don't know what Vrains is, but they were excited about it.
No, if I had to pick 3 to keep in the boat this week, since we did that last week, I'm going to say Freedom Finger stays in the boat with me. I'm going to give it to Twin Breakers, and I'm going to give it to Vampire the Masquerade. Those are my 3.
Oh, really? All right. Well, I'm going to go with Paper Beast, you silly goose, Twin Breakers, and I'll probably stick with Freedom Finger as well.
Yeah. And so the rest of them, I'm not saying they're out of the boat. I'm just saying those are the 3 that I definitely will make sure stay in the boat with me no matter what. All right. That's it, Matt. Another week, another podcast, another opportunity for you to thank us for entertaining you. I'm just kidding. You don't have to thank us at all for the last hour, but you can thank us by liking, sharing, and subscribing to us. We appreciate that, of course. on the podcast service of your choice. We're going to keep track of this whole virus thing. We're going to keep track of the whole video games thing for you, so you don't have to do that every week. And Matt, anything else you want to tell us before we leave today?
Nope, that's it.
All right, that's it for Pitt. We want to thank you for hanging out. And until next time, game on.
Game on. This is the socially distancing outro music. Stay away from me, you virus man.
Wash
Do not
your
touch
hands.
me and wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Oh, man.